hot as fuck, but I'm gonna walk and talk. So that's why I bought this for. I wanna rant and just talk about what's on my mind. So, over the past few months, so first and foremost, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dre, and let's see, what can I say about me? I'm from Queens, New York. I'm 30 years old, and the last 10 years of my life has consisted of marketing and working with brands to help them understand how to distribute their products to the masses. And, at first, when I first started doing it, it was fun because, actually, it was never really that fun, to be honest, but the lifestyle that it afforded me is what made it quote unquote fun. I've made so much money from doing this, money that I never thought that I would ever even be able to make. When I first started off doing digital marketing, I literally just wanted to make $60,000 a year. I would have never thought that I would ever see $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in a month. And by the way, I'm not rich. I've only done that a couple of times. And on a good month, I'm earning consistently monthly recurring revenue anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 a month, which is fine, but it's nowhere near, what I would want to do. But the problem is that, and this might sound like I'm being a little spoiled, but I'm at a point in my life where I've realized that, as a kid, I never really cared about money. I cared about, and honestly, in general, I never really cared about money. I always cared about having freedom, man, having my control, and having so many opportunities for myself to the point where I'm so in demand that, I'm the product. I'm so in demand that no one can tell me anything. So I don't need to work a job. I don't need to put up with people's bullshit. I can work with this one person, or I can work with this other person. And if I don't like working with them, I could just say, fuck you, and I don't want to work with you anymore, right? That literally was my goal. I knew no better way than to learn a skill, do as much as I could with that skill, offer it as a service for people, and then, try to do what I needed to do with it. But, and it worked to some degree, I guess, I didn't start off with a business like most people are gonna tell you on YouTube, I was this big business person. No, not me. I learned everything that I could learn. I taught myself everything. And then I started creating different case studies for myself to prove that I knew what I was doing. And then I pitched myself to agencies. And after I pitched myself to agencies, I got a job, right? And that's how I worked my way up. Worked all the way up in corporate, went from being in corporate America to starting my own thing, built an education program and stuff like that. But none of that shit is important, to be honest. But now I'm in a position in my life where I have no clue what I want to do, because I've made enough money to realize that what they say is true, that money really does not matter. And I don't say this I say this sparingly, right? Because I know that there's people out there that just wonder what it would be like, because that's how I used to be. I used to wonder, what would it be like if I was able to make enough money to where I don't have to worry about anything? And let me tell you something about that. There's always going to be fluctuations as well. So you might make a lot of money one month, and then the next month it might fluctuate, right? Money might be down. You might make 30K one month, and you might make 5K the next, right? So first of all, you got to be humble. But, I feel like if I could do it, anybody could do it. I just went, head on, just into it, and said, fuck it, I'm gonna just do this. you know? And because I felt like I had no choice. I was going through a whole bunch of shit. My mom lost her house. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know, right? I had to like basically pull something out of my ass, and I did. And luckily for me that I'm a fast learner, I was able to fucking, you know, run circles around people once I started to understand how everything worked. You know, I went into corporate America and I started learning, you know, first I was like paying attention to how people were talking among each other, because I was so used to speaking in slang, right? Because I'm from New York, I'm from the hood. I was used to speaking in slang. So that was the first thing I had to fix. I had to become more eloquent with the way that I speak. And for me, that wasn't really that hard, because when I was in high school, I used to be on a debate team, but I had lost my my speaking skills because I was working security for so long, which was ass. I don't recommend anybody to do that. And anyways, now I'm at a point in my life where, because I've been able to make enough money, I've been able to also realize that, like I said this already, money doesn't matter. And the only thing that matters is doing something that you actually care about. And then the question comes up, well, what do I care about? Because I have no fucking clue what I care about. Because every single thing that I've done in my life has never really been for me. It was for other people. I wanted to show people that it was possible to do certain things. I wanted to show my friends that you don't have to go to college to make a lot of money. I wanted to show my mom that I was gonna be something, that she didn't waste all her hard-earned time and effort on me, right? I wanted to, you know, just, I guess, pave a way. And I didn't know what option I was gonna take, because there were so many. I looked at so many things. I did so much research, right? But now I'm in a space where I no longer care about any of it, like at all, because it doesn't stimulate me. I'm actually very bored of it. And that's the thing about me, is that once I start to learn something and I start to like get used to it, and I start to like, you know, when I first started doing marketing, the reason why I was able to last in it for so long was because there was like hierarchies to climb. Like there was hierarchical roles to climb, right? So it was like you had to start off as a strategist, and then you had to go from a strategist to a senior strategist, and then you had to go from a senior strategist to this other thing, and then you had to do this thing to this thing. And like, to be honest, I didn't give a shit about any of it, but I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it because I want to make more money and I want to actually be the best at this. I was very competitive. I've always been very competitive at everything that I do, period. And, you know, I climbed the corporate ladder. And then I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna do my own thing because I'm better than half the people in here. And I was just, you know, so I was just like, all right, whatever. And it sounds pretty egotistical. And to be honest, man, that's another thing. I try to step away from being super egotistical because I really had an ego problem when I was younger. And I realize it now. But, you know, it is what it is, man. I'm just a human being. So, but anyways, I'm all over the place. I hope somebody finds this video valuable, but you know, now what I want to do is more focused on spirituality and more focused on helping people dig deeper within themselves, because there are multiple people within you that you don't even know, that you haven't even met yet, that, you know, that if you knew, your life would be changed. Right? And so I want to help people with that. And really why I want to help people with that is because I had to search for this myself when I went on an existential crisis. I went on an existential crisis because after I felt like I started to figure everything out and I felt like more money wasn't solving my problem, I was trying to figure out what was going to solve my problem. And then I started reading philosophy books, which I always hated reading because I love to learn, but reading seems like so slow for me. And half the times I would notice that I would be able to come up with ideas that when I would go read these books, my ideas that I came up with was in these books. So all of these books were doing was confirming what I already thought. But, you know, like basically, yeah, that's kind of where I got. And I guess ultimately, you know, what I went through an existential crisis, and I was trying to understand what is the meaning of identity, because I felt like I had no identity. My identity was tied to my work, you know, and my work is no longer meaningful to me. I don't really care about it that much. So like, who am I without this thing? And that's a really tough question to answer, because you think you know, and you have no idea. You have no idea, right? But let's see. So I thought I knew, but I realized I had no idea who I was, because I didn't know who I was without working. And the more that I started to ask myself, what is identity? I started to go down literally the rabbit hole of literally trying to answer every question about what could identity possibly be. You know, is it your culture? Is it your job? Is it who your family knows you as? Is it who your friends know you as? Because your identity changes depending on where you're at and who you're with. Is it your heritage? Is it your, like, what is your identity? And is your identity even real? Is identity in of itself even real? And like, this might seem like a silly question, but the reason why I ask this question is because how can you be a dynamic being with a static identity? How can you be constantly changing every second, every minute, every hour? You are not the same, but you have an identity. It doesn't make any sense, right? You could say, well, that's because I'm thinking in an abstract way, and I'm trying to compare abstract to concrete. But like, if you are not just your body, right? And your body is just the thing that basically your soul is, I guess, like controlling from somewhere in, you know, where you're not at, then who really are you? And how do you really know who you are in the first place? Like, in general, like, how do you know? Right? So here's what I started to realize. I started to realize that first and foremost, it's not really like, you shouldn't focus so much on figuring out who you are, because you are basically directed by something that is greater than you. And that thing that you are directed by, some people call it God, some people call it Yeshua, some people call it, you know, there's different names for it, but it's the ultimate experience of life, right? And it's like, when you realize that you are oriented by something that is much greater than you, you realize that every single time you think of yourself as an important, like every single time you fixate on this identity thing, it's because you're so fixated on you. And every time you're fixated on you, it's like a duality. Like, you're moving away from the thing that orients you, and you're moving closer to yourself. And that's why I think ego is destruction. Because when you're moving closer to yourself and you're forming this identity, now you think that you're in full control of everything. And when you think that you're in full control of everything, that means when you fail, it's your fault, and when you win, it's your fault. And how much power you put on those two things can break you. When you realize that there's something that orients you, and your life is going to unfold as it was meant to unfold, as it was always going to unfold, then you're not gonna get broken. It's just gonna unfold. Like life is just gonna happen. You're just gonna see it unravel, and everything that you learn will be ultimately to serve you as you're navigating. So it might sound contradictory because I'm saying like you don't exist, but then I'm also saying like what you're gonna learn is going to serve you. It's like when I say I don't mean literally that you don't exist. I just mean that you are more than what you think you are, right? And you are oriented by something that is more powerful than you. That's all I mean. And the moment you realize that, the easier it is to detach from this physical reality. So when I go back to the question, I say, what is your identity? And I say, it doesn't matter. Now it makes you wonder, well, what am I supposed to do? If I don't know who I am, if I don't have an identity, what am I supposed to do? And the question to that, in my opinion, is you follow your feelings. I think your feelings are instinctual. Your feelings are your compass for life. But it's not just feelings, right? We have to get very specific. It's feelings plus time. Why am I saying feelings plus time? Well, you have to think about how I'm using feelings as a measuring stick. If you go towards a direction that makes you feel good, that could be seen as a positive indicator for you to keep moving forward in that direction, right? But it only depends on how it makes you feel over time. If you're moving towards something that makes you feel good in the short term, but bad over time, then likely that thing is not good for you. For example, if I did everything that made me feel good, I would drink alcohol all the time. But that can make my lifespan shorter, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not good for me, right? But if I went to the gym all the time, which I absolutely hate, in the grand scheme of things, I'd feel good. I'd feel amazing, right? So it's like you have to endure the pain in order to get through the fire to get to the other side of life. And if you were able to do the same thing, if you did the same thing, you would literally be so happy. You'd be so happy with your life because you would experience all of the feelings that you're supposed to experience. You would get the dopamine hits. You would get everything that you're supposed to experience. So you should live your life in accordance to the experiences that you want to feel. You should use your feelings as your radar, as your compass for life. You should move towards them. And when you feel negative, you move away from what makes you feel negative. This is the easiest way to figure out how to navigate life. But you have to be aware of this. You have to understand the time access. You have to understand the duality. When I was focused on making money and focused on doing all these things, I was getting dopamine hits like that, right? I was getting dopamine hits and I kept moving towards these things and I kept feeling like they were great. And I was like, yeah, my life is getting better. And yeah, I got the car. And yeah, I got the girl. And yeah, I got this. And yeah, I got that. And everything was starting to become about these things. And then once I got them, I was like, I don't care anymore. I really don't care. Had I known to pay attention to that a long time ago, then who knows what I would be doing right now. I probably would have been on this journey faster. And keep in mind that the only reason why I got on the journey that I was on before this was because I was trying to survive. I was trying to survive around my identity, the identity that I created, right? I didn't want people to see me struggling. So I was operating from survival mode. I was doing everything that I could do in order to win. Because I already knew that people had it out for me. I already seen it. I already been exposed to that. And I'm the type of person that if you tell me that I'm not gonna be able to do something, I'm gonna do it. You want me to do something, tell me I can't do it. If you want me to do something, tell me I can't do it. I'll get it done, I promise you. Right? Because I never had an issue being able to think through things. My issue was being focused. And the only time I ever got focused, I swear I'm not, like, I used to, bro, in high school, one of my friends used to always ask me, he used to always say, yo, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what do you want to do? He knew that he wanted to be a cop. Other friends knew that they wanted to do this other thing. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I didn't care. Bro, I didn't care about society. I didn't care about the rules that these people make. I didn't give a shit about any of this. The only time this only started to hit when I realized, when my mom lost everything, that I needed a place to live and I couldn't rely on anyone except myself to get me that place to live. Not to say that my mom was a bad parent. My mom was an amazing parent. It's just that I knew that eventually she was gonna get older. I knew that eventually that I was gonna be the one who has to take care of her because I didn't have a father, right? My stepfather, she met him when I got older, right? So I knew all of this stuff. And this is what ultimately made me lock in, right? So if you're going through life right now, you're trying to figure out like how to navigate life, I want you to pay attention to, and I want you to be aware of your feelings and the direction that they guide you in. And a lot of the times, most people say as a man, you should not listen to your feelings. You shouldn't act off of your emotions. I'm not telling you to be emotional. I'm not telling you to act off of your feelings. I'm telling you to feel your feelings, right? And then use logic to determine how you should act. That's what I'm telling you to do, okay? Stop listening to people. It's so many people out here that are just listening to other people. They're all sheeps. Peace.